Right now at 6, a Portland toddler dies after a suspected fentanyl overdose. Why police say they are searching for the mother.
Then, an emotional day in court as a man is sentenced for a double murder in a case of mistaken identity.
A crime so diabolical. It makes absolutely no sense.
Plus, thousands of Boeing workers off the job and on the picket lines.
They're willing to stay out here till however long it takes to get a good contract.
And how one man's passion for Portland turned into a massive community cleanup.
The initial goal was to have about 100 people show up, and it just kind of took off online.
Good evening. We begin at 6 with tragedy in Northeast Portland, where a 2-year-old girl has died from a suspected fentanyl overdose. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Molko.
And I'm Christine Pitawanich. Right now, police are searching for the child's mother. Let's get right to our Catherine Cook live off Northeast MLK, where police say they responded yesterday afternoon to a toddler in trouble. Catherine.
And Christine, when firefighters arrived, they say the little girl was in cardiac arrest and later died at the hospital. Police say the girl's mom left the home as everything was unfolding. This happened yesterday around 2:30 in the afternoon near Northeast 6th and MLK. Police have spoken with several adults in the girl's life, but again, they want to speak with her mom. At this point, they haven't arrested anyone. Police say based on evidence found at the child's home and information from the hospital, they believe fentanyl was a factor in the girl's death. We spoke with Portland Fire and Rescue. They tell us all drugs are more dangerous for kids, especially fentanyl, which is 50 times more powerful than heroin.
I'm hopeful that we don't have situations where we have families that are living in the threat of this possibly happening. But I'm also hopeful that we can get everybody who's addicted to it, whether they're on the streets or they're housed, and we can find pathways for them to get out of it. It is extremely, extremely addictive.
Since the start of last year, police say they have dealt with 513 overdoses dealing with fentanyl, including 14 kids. They say in most of those cases, it's led to death. Christine and David, back to you.
Such a tragedy. Catherine Cook reporting live for us in Northeast Portland. Thank you, Catherine. Now to some breaking news. Oregon state elections officials are investigating an error first reported by Willamette Week that apparently added more than 300 non-citizens to voter rolls over the last 3 years.
This is coming in minute by minute here. The Secretary of State, LaVon Griffin-Valade, says 2 of those went on to vote, though it is not known if they were citizens at the time. She calls it a document entry error at the DMV, with staff essentially entering a U.S. passport or birth certificate as the type of document instead of a foreign passport or birth certificate. This mistake, she says, meant they were automatically registered as part of Oregon's motor voter law. Again, about 300 people here. In a statement just into us, Governor Tina Kotek said that she has been fully briefed and that, quote, this situation will not impact the 2024 election in any way. The Secretary of State said she's ordered updates to those voter registrations. State Representative Janelle Bynum, who is running for Congress, called for the Attorney General to launch a full-scale investigation. We will keep you posted.
In tonight's other headlines, a man accused of kidnapping a woman in Salem is now in the hospital after police shot him. The woman called for help around 4:30 this morning, and officers say they found her and the suspect in a car near Wallace Marine Park. Authorities say both got out of the car, and the man, who has been identified as 34-year-old Daniel Lewis Garcia, had a knife. At this point, it's unclear if Garcia moved toward the police or threatened the woman, but either way, officers shot him. A man camping in the park told us what he heard.
I heard the gunshot. It was loud, you know. Living down there, we hear a lot of loud sounds, but this was distinctively, it sounded like a gunshot, you know, it was scary.
Yeah, no officers were hurt, and at this point, we don't know the condition of the woman. Oregon State Police are investigating.
A Camas City Council member is now facing criminal charges after he's accused of pointing a gun at a man fishing in the Washougal River. Camas police say 66-year-old counselor John Swilarich was walking nearby when he got into some sort of argument with that fisherman. Things escalated when Swilarich allegedly threw a large rock and then pulled out a gun. He was arrested and charged with 2 misdemeanors, reckless endangerment and aiming or discharging a firearm.
And investigators say rechargeable lithium-ion batteries are to blame for 2 fires that displaced nearly a dozen people. Early yesterday morning, an electric scooter caught fire at a home in southwest Portland. It caused hundreds of thousands of dollars in damage and left 3 people without a home. Then last night, there was another battery fire at a southeast Portland apartment complex. It caused damage and displaced 8 people. In both cases, fire officials say the batteries overheated. Matt?
All right, Christine, thank you very much. We certainly did not overheat today, nor will we this weekend, but we've got some pretty good weather on the way over the next several days. Here's the 7-day forecast. You can see we get afternoon showers tomorrow, but there could also be a sprinkle in the morning tomorrow, so don't discount that, but I think most of the day will be dry. Then there's that chance of sprinkles overnight Saturday into Sunday morning after that. Should really clear off. So the weekend may begin with a shower, but it should end with sunshine. Monday looks fantastic. We get up to 75. That's before Tuesday, which is the complete opposite. Rainy and cool, high of only 62. That's going to be a soaker for us, so we'll keep an eye on that one. But towards the end of next week, the last days of summer look pretty great. More on that in a bit, guys. Back to you.
Yeah, we need the rain, but loving the sunshine. Thank you, Matt. Today, a judge sentenced a man to life in prison after he pleaded guilty to the double murder of 2 people in a case of mistaken identity.
The shooting left 2 families looking for answers and mourning the loss of their loved ones.
This has been the worst thing our families have experienced.
An emotional day in court as the man who murdered 2 people learned his fate.
The total sentence is a life sentence with 32 years to be served before the eligibility to ask for parole.
Bennett Miller admitted to killing 29-year-old Fortress Oriaki and 25-year-old Isi Akoria in a case of mistaken identity. On Friday, the families of the victims spoke in court as a slideshow with photos of the 2 played on a screen.
A crime so diabolical. It makes absolutely no sense. It's a nightmare that we are still trying to dig ourselves out of, trying to understand.
In June of 2023, Isi flew from Nigeria to Portland to celebrate Fortress's birthday. Miller was out selling drugs and mistook the 2 as people who had wronged him. He followed them in his car and shot them at the intersection of Cesar Chavez Boulevard and Halsey Street.
His brilliant life was maliciously cut short by a violent lowlife named Bennett Miller.
Fortress worked with people with disabilities, including 11-year-old Reed, who has cerebral palsy. Reed shared how they played video games and power chair soccer.
You made me sad. Now I feel nervous about someone who I care about going out anytime and getting killed. I loved Fortress like he was my own brother.
In a short statement, Miller says he thinks about what he did every day.
Gotta work on myself so nothing like this ever happens again. Unfortunately, I'm a product of my environment.
But these families will forever live with the pain of losing their loved ones.
Our goal as a family was just to be able to move on. There is nothing anybody can do on this very planet Earth that could bring my son back.
Thousands of Boeing workers are now on strike, essentially bringing the production of planes like the 737 and 777 to a standstill.
Yeah, the Dreamliner 2. Blair Best is live outside Boeing's Gresham facility with the very latest there. Blair?
Well, there's been a steady stream of horns and whistles just like that all day long. We're standing among about a couple dozen Boeing machinists. These are the guys that actually build the airplanes. There's about 1,200 of them based here in Gresham. They went on strike at midnight and they tell us they're fired up and ready to fight.
It's day 1 of Boeing machinists on strike. You cannot build Boeing airplanes without the machinists. You can't build Boeing airplanes without the parts we make here in Portland.
On Thursday, the majority of Boeing's largest machinist union, more than 30,000 members, including those in Seattle and more than 1,200 here in Portland, voted against their new contract despite 6 months of negotiating. They started striking at midnight.
There was enough anger and frustration over the past, decade plus that they needed to express that, and overwhelmingly rejected that agreement.
It all came down to 5 things: pay, secure retirement, paid time off, the cost of health care, and job security.
It's just time that the company takes care of their people.
Bill Brewer has worked at the Gresham facility for 19 years.
I'm not as proud as I was, 15, 20 years ago. There are people who literally cannot afford a house, and that's unfair.
We just want to provide for our families. Boeing had a chance to do the right thing, and they haven't done it yet, so they better hurry up and make a decision.
A spokesperson for Boeing tells KGW they're committed to resetting their relationship with employees and the union and ready to reach a new agreement. Until then, machinists on the picket line go without pay and lose benefits if not back at work by the end of the month, also impacting surrounding businesses.
There's a lot of small mom and pop shops that rely on the work they do for us, and it's going to be hard on them. They're going to be very hard on them. That's a gamble and a risk we're willing to take.
We're frustrated and we're fired up. That's why we're the fighting machinists, because we're out here fighting for what we deserve.
Now we're told the union and Boeing met late last night, and that the union met again today with the bargaining team to try to talk strategy to come up with a new agreement that these machinists will support. And just briefly for some context, Boeing machinists have gone on strike 7 times. The longest lasted 20 weeks. Back to you.
Wow. Blair Best in Gresham with the update. Thank you, Blair. Straight ahead on KGW News at 6, trying to prevent overdoses across college campuses. A look at the changes in Clark County and beyond.
And later, why a major downtown bridge will be closed for much of the weekend.
Plus, coming up on the story at 6:30, part 2 of Pat's conversation with the head of the Knight Cancer Institute. Tonight, they explore the role of AI when it comes to the future of cancer treatment. That's ahead at 6:30 on The Story, only here on KGW.